Welcome to the K-pop Callout, a podcast where we have the conversations that K-pop fans don't have. I'm Honest.
And I'm True.
And today's discussion topic is going to be part 2 of a deep dive into parasocialism and K-pop fandoms.
So, last episode was part 1 for this topic, and now we'll continue from where we left off. So, I kind of relate to B in certain ways. I kind of relate to her.
Yeah, person B.
Person B. Because she had a realization, and I had something like that too, but nothing really triggered it. It was just I just realized or suddenly noticed just how sad I was over my bias. And I was suddenly just more than not, I feel like I'm sad over this person at this point. Or actually maybe not. The sadness was just so intense. The highs were good, but the lows were so bad. And I kind of accidentally, I didn't even intend to, but I just had this realization happened one night. And after that night, I just changed for a couple months. I couldn't really even look at my bias for a few months. Or I did, but it was just I turned around for a couple months, and it was kind of sad because I'm an art person, and it was really nice that being a K-pop fan gave me things to draw. I loved drawing my idol, but then I couldn't even draw him anymore because I just started blaming myself, oh my god, you're so delusional, or not delusional, obsessed, you're so obsessed. I just my brain just kind of somehow, how should I say it? It's hard to explain, but basically, yeah, I just started being really hard on myself for that. And this all happened suddenly because of this realization one night. And after a couple months, I started slowly getting back. But it's interesting, those changes can happen suddenly. But for her, it was just something that she saw him do that triggered her.
Yeah, it's interesting how there are different things that can kind of facilitate those realizations, there could be specific moments that make people kind of have these sudden epiphanies, or in your case, I feel like it was kind of you were slowly realizing things subconsciously, and then it suddenly became available to your conscious mind.
Yeah.
For you, it seemed like it came out of nowhere, but I'm sure that there was something kind of building up subconsciously, and it was just suddenly it became conscious knowledge or conscious realization to you.
Yeah, even when I did come back, I don't think I've been the same since.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't think you can be the same once you kind of quote unquote wake up.
Yeah. As B said.
as person B said, wake up,
yeah.
Once you kind of have that wake up moment, you can't go back to standing in the same way or having the same kind of mentality or fantasy, I think.
Yeah.
Or being parasocial in the same way again. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a wake up moment. I mean, I think for you guys it was, but it could also just kind of be I don't know if this is the best way to describe it, but it's like it kind of feels like the quote unquote honeymoon phase can kind of like end, sort of, or something can kind of make you realize that like, oh, this isn't such
Mm.
like it's kind of a moment where you just sort of like become disillusioned, sort of like you thought something was like a good like. And I'm kind of thinking about K-pop generally too, because I feel like that's kind of been my experience where it's like maybe I kind of felt like K-pop was like generally only good, and then like I just kind of suddenly like for me I feel like there were kind of like these staggered moments of realization where it was like I kind of started off feeling like K-pop is all good, you know, and I didn't see any downsides to it really. And then like there were moments that
Oh,
kind of slowly made me realize that like, okay, well
yeah.
this aspect isn't good, and then oh and this aspect also isn't good, and this aspect also isn't good. And like I've also become like disillusioned with like the fandoms too. Like there were a couple fandoms that I felt were like genuinely nice fandoms when I first joined them. And then like after a couple months I realized like they're like really toxic and problematic and obsessed like in their own ways. They just kind of like
Yeah.
hide it more, or like they kind of it wasn't as apparent. And it's like I think it's because I was maybe just like in the quote unquote honeymoon phase of standing those artists and being in those fandoms that I didn't really get a good sense for like what the what the fandoms were about or what the dynamic was. And like now I've learned like all fandoms are just kind of toxic and problematic, and like there are like, you know, a lot of fans are much more parasocial than they realize, much more delusional than they realize, much more obsessed than they realize. Like now I just realize like that's just like a common theme throughout I think all K-pop
Yeah.
fandoms.
Yeah, it is.
There is no like quote unquote nice fandom or quote unquote good fandom
Yeah.
in K-pop. I feel like
Yeah, there really isn't.
yeah. So I feel like it's interesting though, like because it's kind of like, you know, like for person B there was like a specific moment that kind of woke her up, and for you it was probably like just like you kind of went from being like kind of fully deeply into it from my understanding, and then like suddenly you just kind of had this conscious realization one night, right? And then
Yeah.
that changed everything. And like for me it was like many moments staggered over like a period of years where I kind of had
Yeah.
realizations and gradually became more and more disillusioned with K-pop and fandoms and idols and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There are different ways that those changes in our brain can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, earlier when you were telling the story about person B, there was like something that kind of like came to mind that like you were kind of just giving like specific like examples sort of, but there was a lot in the story that like obviously you couldn't like
Yeah.
cover for this
Yeah.
podcast and stuff because it would be too long and stuff. But there is one aspect that like I find really interesting about person B's story is like person B was at least being honest. Like they were at least like sharing like their actual thoughts, because like person B was kind of saying the things that like fans might think or feel internally, but they wouldn't actually say because they know it'll make them
Yeah.
sound bad. But so like I give person B props for like at least like she was like I don't know like saying actually verbalizing these things.
Yeah.
And well, mhm.
Uh she sounded like a stereotypical like a stereotypical parasocial fan, but that's because they are actually like that. They just don't say those things.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't actually like say those things outwardly, or like yeah, they don't say that how they really feel or what they really think. And like
Yeah.
an aspect of her story that I find really interesting, and I feel like I've observed this at other fans, or like I get this sense from other fans. But like I said, they don't talk about it. They don't say it because they know it'll like make them like seem bad or like whatever. And it'll give them a bad look, sort of. But one thing was that one thing you didn't mention is that person B had invested a lot of money into her idol. Like she had spent like
Yeah.
thousands, probably, right?
I don't know how much, but she said she mentioned birthday projects. Probably also albums. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, if she had won multiple fan calls or fan signs.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a mention of a fan call. Yeah.
It ultimately doesn't matter, but like my recollection was that she had won multiple fan calls or fan signs, and that's why she kind of had this like idea or expectation that the idol knew who she was.
Yeah.
And I feel like I also recall you saying when you had read the messages to me before, she had said something that like I've invested so much money, and like I guess you kind of said like she said that I'm done spending money on him, but like it was kind of
Yeah.
there was this kind of the sense of like she had spent probably thousands of dollars on her bias, like trying to meet her bias and like buying gifts for her bias and stuff like that. Um and it's like there are a couple things. So the first thing is like because she had met her bias before, she like thought that she felt like he knew her or expected him to remember her. And then the other thing was like she was like I have invested so much money, so much time into my bias, and then she didn't feel like she was getting what she like quote unquote deserved from the relationship. And
Yeah.
that was kind of like the basis of her anger and resentment towards her bias, was that she's like I've invested so much in him and he's not giving me a return on my investment. And
Yeah.
that is something that I think is much more common among K-pop fans, and K-pop fans talk about because they know it'll make them look bad if they like express those things. But I think that there are probably a lot of K-pop fans who feel that way on some level, where they're like I've invested maybe thousands of dollars into trying to see this idol and to buy gifts for this idol and to do like support projects for this idol, you know, where they send like food trucks or drink trucks or
Yeah.
lunches or whatever. I've like invested all this money and all this time, and I've like met this idol many, many times, and I don't, but they don't feel like they're getting a return on their investment, or they don't feel like they're getting what they feel they should deserve out of the relationship. And that's something that I think that fans like don't like ever kind of pause and like they don't think about like how like parasocial relationships aren't real relationships. So even if you invest in them in the same way that you would in real life relationships, the difference is that for parasocial relationships you will not get the things out of those relationships that you would if you
Yeah.
invested in real life relationships. And I think a lot of fans, they feel this frustration and anger and resentment, but they kind of like don't know how to interpret it or don't know what to do about it, and they don't feel like they can talk about it because they don't make them look like bad, like ungrateful fans or bad fans, or like, you know, people will just tell them, well, you didn't have to invest thousands of dollars in them, you know, like, you know, like they don't want to like kind of
Yeah.
take personal responsibility for it. But I think that a lot of them, I think there are a lot of fans who do feel that way, and I think that there are like, and there are a couple ways that this can manifest. I think that there are fans who do get angry at their biases, like person B did, because I've kind of witnessed this, or I've kind of, fans don't talk about this openly, but I've heard of cases like this happening with other fans, but they would never post about it openly or think this is all like in DMs that they might say to people. Or I think that there are fans who like they don't know what to do with these like this anger, this resentment, this disappointment. So like I feel like they just kind of take it out on other fans or like find a way to get like I don't know, to kind of vent it out on
Mm.
other fans or blame other fans in some way, or like
Yeah.
they might even project or like get like, for example, like there might be a fan who's like invested a lot in their idol, and they might feel like this kind of pent up resentment or anger or disappointment, but it's like they don't want to like even recognize it because it's going to make them feel have complicated feelings about their relationship with their idol, and they want their relationship with their idol to just be they want to believe it's just like this happy, purely happy, positive, beneficial thing for
Yeah.
them. But then there might be other fans who like actually express on the timeline like, oh, I miss this idol, or I want, you know, more content, or, you know, or something. I wish they would do more live streams. And then it's like those fans might attack like the fans who have the pent up anger and frustration and resentment might attack those fans for like kind of like openly voicing what they're also feeling, or like kind of like openly voicing things that like it's like I think that they take it out on other fans. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I feel like they kind of
Yeah.
take things out on other fans, or if like there are other fans who like they are acting quote unquote entitled or complaining or saying that they want more from their idols in some way. Like those fans that secretly feel that way might attack those fans because it's kind of like they don't know what else to do, sort of. And it's like they're saying, even if those fans are maybe saying out loud what those people like actually, how those people actually feel or what they actually think inside.
Yeah. And also, I wonder if like that, her anger towards the like female idols and like other girls, that like her bias was like
Mm-hmm.
posing for pictures with and stuff, was also just like pent up
Yeah.
anger and not just jealousy.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's just kind of like those feelings kind of accumulate inside of them, and it's like they don't know how to make sense of them or how to kind of release them. And I think that a lot of fans are more likely to just take it out on other fans or something like that, because
Yeah.
when it's really, it's just like it's the fact it's a side effect of parasocialism. It's a side effect of them investing too much in
Yeah.
what I mean, parasocial relationships have been called by some people, like some professionals, they have been called quote unquote like zombie relationships. You know, like you're investing in
Oh.
like a dead relationship kind of, or something that's not actually a real living, you know, actual
Oh.
real life relationship. And so it's like,
Wow. That's
yeah.
like calling it a zombie relationship. It's so like scary, but like real.
Mhm. Yeah. Cuz it's like fans are like investing, like I said for my list of effects or observations of how parasocialism manifests in K-pop fandoms is like fans will sometimes invest more in their idols than they do in themselves and in their real life relationships. And the sad thing about that is that if you invest in yourself or your real life relationships, you actually will get some of the actual benefits that you like expect and want that will actually improve your life. But
Yeah.
if you invest in a parasocial relationship, you will not get the things that you are like looking to get out of those relationships. Like it doesn't matter how many thousands of dollars you spend on your faves, they are not going to
Yeah.
actually like reciprocate your feelings for them. They're not actually in the end going to fall in love with you or end up with you and like actually be a partner to you.
Yeah.
And
And
like that,
it's
and that
yeah.
it's sad, it's sad. And like I mean, and even fans who aren't, who haven't gotten to the extent where they are like investing, you know, thousands of dollars or are going like meet like trying to win a bunch of fan calls or fan signs, like it's still to some extent it's like it is sad that it's like our investments in our idols, it's like I don't want to say it's throwing money away, but like, or I don't want to say it's like throwing money or effort or time away, because you do feel like you are getting something out of it, but it's like you're never going to get a return on your investment. Like you might get a little something out of it, but you're never going to get as much as you put into it. Like not even close.
Yeah, like the fact is that K-pop groups obviously would not be able to continue, like K-pop idols would not be able to continue their careers if no one
Hmm.
bought the albums, if no one went to the
Hmm.
fan signs. They
Hmm.
get money from that, and that keeps them alive. Um,
And well, that also contributes to their album sales, which helps them on music shows and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. However, it's like an idol doesn't have to like an idol can't be forced to react in certain ways. Like that's just them. They're just doing their
Hmm.
job, and like there's no guarantee
Hmm.
of them doing what you want, and you shouldn't um should you expect that you can, but it's just not worth it, like because like there's no guarantee.
Yeah, I know. That's the truth. But the thing is like, think about it from the perspective of a fan who's like invested so much. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Who's been like a supportive fan for like years and like has invested like not just like their time and effort and but like lots and lots of money, like thousands
yeah,
of dollars. It's sad because it's like like you said, that you're like, you can't expect them. And it's like, yeah, you can't expect them. But when you invest that much, of course you have those expectations. And it's like, that's the thing about parasocial relationships with idols, though, is like, even if you invest that much, because it's not a real relationship, you can't expect the same things from them that you would in other relationships. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that's like disappointing, is it's kind of like, you can invest so much, and like, you might not get what you're expecting at all, or obviously anything you get that's positive is very like limited and very minuscule compared to what you're investing. But even that little bit that you get might be disappointing too, because you
Yeah.
don't actually have a real relationship with them, and idols are completely aware of this. Like, from their point of view, they, like, even if they are familiar with certain fans, and like, you know what I mean, like, they remember certain fans, they've interacted with a lot of fans a lot, they are very aware that they do not have an actual personal relationship with these fans, but the
Yeah.
fans feel like they do. And so, like, one thing that I hate is that, like, fans kind of are easy to dismiss or blame fans for feeling this way, but it's like, that's valid. If you invest a lot in a relationship, it is completely natural and normal to expect certain things and to want to get certain things out of it. But the thing is that
Yeah.
you just can't do that with parasocial relationships, and it's not the fans' fault. It's like, it's the fact that it's like, they're investing, like I said, in a zombie relationship. They're investing in a relationship that isn't actually real. And so it's like, it's mean to tell people, well, it's your fault for investing so much, like, you can't expect anything from idols or something like that. It's like, when that is human nature, when we invest in
Yeah.
things, we do
That's
expect
true.
things, we do want things from those relationships. And so it's like, the awareness that's lacking is like, you just can't invest, you just shouldn't invest that much in parasocial relationships, because
Yeah.
you won't get the things you want to get out of them, and because your expectations and wishes won't be fulfilled no matter how much
Yeah.
you invest in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a long side tangent, but that was like something I just kind of thought of with regards to this, like, person B's story.
Yeah. Um with like person B, it definitely was the case of, romantic love. And
Mm-hmm.
like she confirmed that she's realized that uh her bias cannot give her that love. So it was
Mm-hmm.
literally that, like she was expecting something in return.
Mm-hmm.
So like unlike for me, I wasn't, but it
Yeah.
was just like a natural feeling that I had, that I tried to avoid but I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the story. And I wanted to ask you, Honest, um because I've talked so much about like my my experience with parasocialism. You did
Mm-hmm.
talk about it a little bit, but I want to know more specifics, because your case isn't about romantic love at all, but
Mm-hmm.
you still consider that you have been parasocial in the past, or still are, question
Still,
mark.
yeah, still, yeah, I still am to an extent, yeah.
And yeah, to clear up, I most K-pop fans probably are parasocial to an extent, and
Mm-hmm.
I am still to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I'm like 100% clean now.
I was like, clean, like you were like an actual like user or like drug addict or
Yeah.
something.
2 years, 2 years
Dude's sober.
clean.
Dude's clean. Dude's sober.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm not clean. Um, but yeah. So tell me and tell the audience more about your experience.
Yeah. So, like I said, in one of the previous episodes, there's a certain idol that I consider to be my role model. And I feel like overall, my parasocial relationship with this idol has been positive. Like, it has kind of inspired me and to do a lot of things, like inspired me and motivated me to do a lot of things and make a lot of big changes in my life, and to just put myself out there and try things and stuff like that. But it's kind of like this. K-pop has inspired me to kind of like actually want to take real steps towards achieving my dreams and to try to like be successful in my own way and to try to like make an impact and stuff like that. But then like I keep comparing myself to people who've already made it, like I've said before, which is something you shouldn't do. And
Yeah.
with this idol in particular, it's like I've just felt really, really envious because like this idol has a lot of things that I don't have that make obviously like success and following their dreams easier. Like this idol was born very attractive naturally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um they were born into a wealthy family. They were born into a supportive family that actually like believed in them and like supported their dreams. Like this idol, you know, had a lot of things they wanted to do and like their parents like let them do whatever they wanted to do and like fully monetarily supported them even though like it was like very
Oh.
expensive and they did a lot of things. um and the parents were just like really genuinely believed in the idol and were like, you can do anything you want to do or you can do anything that you dream of. Like they were really supportive. Like their whole family was really has always been very supportive of them. And like
Mm.
so like that obviously that makes it easy. And like the idol's also just very like fit and athletic and like good at lots of things and like funny, has a good personality, like kind of just like has everything sort of. And so like when you think about like someone like that is obviously like built for success. Like the chances of them succeeding, as long as they have like the will and the passion, it like makes it so much easier for them to succeed. And like I'm not trying to minimize this idol's hard work because this idol definitely worked super hard and like definitely had a lot more setbacks than most idols too. Like their path was not easy.
Yeah.
um and like most people probably would have given up, but this idol like persisted and like just kept going and like is like, you know, obviously like more like getting becoming increasingly successful and popular now and stuff like that. um
Yeah.
but for me like there's just kind of like obviously like I shouldn't compare myself and I shouldn't like um you know, like we're just different people. That's but like I just kind of keep like feeling some amount of anger or like resentment um towards this idol a little bit, even though like I really like this idol and care about them and like I obviously
Hmm.
want good things for them and like I try to support them and like I say encouraging things and like I really do want the best for them. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, ugh, it's not fair. Like it's kind of like, why do
Yeah.
some people get everything? Why do some people get everything? And then it's like for other people, it's just like it's so hard to even get the confidence to try to pursue what you want to do when you don't have all of like the support and the encouragement and the good looks and all of this stuff, you know what I mean? And like all these
Yeah.
things in life that make it easier for you to like, you know, get discovered or become successful or to get accepted. It's like not everybody is like born with those things or born into those circumstances. And so it's like, and there are just kind of like moments where it's like I just get frustrated with the idol because like because the idol is from a privileged background, like they aren't really aware of what average people go through, I feel like. And so that kind of bothers me sometimes. Like
Hmm.
this idol's very nice and very encouraging and like really does try to empathize with their fans, but like they also they also make it obvious that they are kind of out of touch or don't really get it. And I also don't think that they really like recognize or appreciate like all of these things that they were like born with, you know, and born into and like have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like, and I guess it also just kind of rubs me the wrong way how like some fans just kind of like glorify, I mean, in general, fans just kind of like glorify like idols' journeys in general, but it's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know,
But
it's like,
they
yes, that's,
they
mhm,
they must talk about them like wow, like they've experienced so much, and
mhm,
like you said, like most idols would have like given up at this point and stuff. Yeah, but also this idol is from a wealthy family, has been supported the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so like yeah, like it's literally like almost taboo to even talk about those things with regards to this idol, because like the story, like there's a kind of struggle story, that fans tell about the idol, and the idol
Yeah.
kind of tells about themselves too, which is fine. Like the idol has had a lot of setbacks and has had a lot of hardships, on their journey to try to like make it and like become successful and popular. But it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, this idol is like almost, like I said, destined for success. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there
Yeah.
are people who are in similar situations who maybe didn't make it because they didn't persevere, didn't have the talent or whatever, but still, like, success is easier for like this type of person. And so it just kind of makes me feel like a bit defeated, because I'm just kind of like, I really want to achieve my dreams, but I wasn't born with all of the things that this idol was born with. I wasn't born into
Yeah.
the circumstances that this idol was born into. I'm trying to do everything on my own and figure out everything on my own. And like, I just like, I don't come from money. I don't like, I mean, I'm not trying to like throw my parents under the bus or say that they're bad parents, but like, you know, not all parents are like emotionally supportive in the way that they need to be, or not all parents believe in their children, like believe their children can truly do everything and trust them, and like be like,
Yeah.
yeah, like even if your dream seems far-fetched, we'll like back you 100% and we truly believe in you. Like not all parents are like that. A lot of parents are like, you have to be practical, you have to be responsible, you can't
Yeah.
like you can't just kind of like waste your life or whatever trying to achieve something that like you most likely won't make money doing, stuff like that. So like that's the world that most people live in. That's like the circumstances that like most people kind of come from, and it does make following your dreams harder and success harder. It doesn't mean that they can't happen. Of course there are many cases where it does happen, but it makes it harder. And so I guess like I just kind of like I don't feel this way like constantly, but it's kind of like there are certain things that trigger me. Like just like how like, person B got triggered, and like I think other fans get triggered. We have things that kind of trigger negative feelings in us with regards to our biases because of these parasocial relationships. And like these parasocial relationships affect us in different ways, or might like the effects might manifest in different ways. But like
Yeah.
ultimately it can trigger similar types of feelings of like disappointment, resentment, for me, like kind of envy or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like you don't really know what to do with those feelings, because it's like I want this to be a positive relationship, because I want to there I do get positive things from this relationship, and I want to continue to get those positive things. But it's like there is this like it's kind of like there is this negative side, or this kind of like dark side you have to kind of deal with, or like I don't want to say you have to accept it in order to get the benefits from it, because that's not right. But it's one of those things where it's like it's complicated, and it's like you have to kind of try to figure out, like, kind of set boundaries with yourself with regards to your parasocial relationship with your idol, and be like,
Yeah.
you know, okay, I need to, establish boundaries like you would with real relationships in some ways, and that so it's kind of like, and so that you can try to hopefully like still enjoy their content and like get the things from the relationship that you want to get the positive things that are like motivating you or inspiring you or helping you in some way, or just entertainment or whatever, without like feeling like this relationship is like becoming too toxic and creating a lot of negative feelings in you about yourself and about your situation, and you're like fixating on that instead of actually doing things that you should be doing and stuff.
Yeah. Like when people think of parasocial relationships and the negative effects, envy doesn't really come to my mind like
Mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess you can be envious towards anyone, even if you don't feel, if you even if you aren't parasocial
Mm-hmm.
towards them. But when you are parasocial towards someone, any kind of negative feeling towards that person will be like doubled, uh
Yeah.
because you're like so invested in this person
Mm-hmm.
that like everything that you feel towards them is like so much more like it is
Magnified.
so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It can like it was mentioned in the sources, like, people who have depressive symptoms will become more depressive, or their depressive symptoms become more extreme when parasocialism is kind of factored in, or like a part of their lives. It's the same with other emotions too. Is like it can make you feel those emotions more often and more intensely, because they make those emotions more existing emotions more intense, but they also can create emotions, both positive and negative ones, within people, and those can be very intense too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's very personal, and I appreciate it. And I feel like your experience is a little different than most K-pop fans, maybe. And there might be someone who relates to that. So it's
Hmm.
good to get all the different experiences out there.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right, so we're moving on to question 4 then. Why does parasocialism happen in K-pop, or why are K-pop fans so parasocial?
Um, well, the industry is designed for that to happen. Like,
Hmm.
it is just designed. Those things are not coincidences.
Hmm.
Um, there is emphasis on the artist's personality, and uh, with like the way that companies promote the idols.
Hmm.
And knowing someone's personality means that you start to feel like you actually know the person. And
Hmm.
I guess our brains are like not built for that. Like, they can't comprehend knowing someone who you don't actually have any real interactions with. Like, that's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, we're born. When we're born, we don't know anything about media and stuff. And like, humans are
Hmm.
not made for a world like that world. Humans are not made for a digital world. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's how we get attached, and the feelings just grow from there.
Hmm.
That's my explanation for why does it happen.
Yeah, that's really good, actually. Yeah, like there's a little bit of overlap in our answers, but then you went in an interesting direction because you're kind of talking about like biology and um, like
Monkey.
yeah, you're talking about you're talking about like how human, yeah, I mean like how the human brain is not like made for like the modern world. Like we humans are animals in the way that we have evolved, and like what humans experiences have been like throughout the years and stuff like that. Like it's not natural. Like the parasocial relationships, it's like not something that like human brains were like meant to be able to like, kind of like deal with or know how to navigate. Like
Yeah.
our development, like the human brain and body too, but like especially human brain is like very slow to kind of develop and try to adapt to the modern world, and like all the stuff with like technology and media and the way the world is like it's unnatural. It's unnatural. It
Yeah.
goes against our nature, and so it's like it our brains kind of like hurt us or work against us because like they're programmed to like do certain things or to kind of process things in certain ways that like with technology and media that has kind of like thrown everything off for us. So like that's a really good point about how like you know humans the way humans kind of form attachments and bonds with people is like by like see like if they see people a lot and hear people a lot and get interactions with people a lot, then you just kind of
Yeah.
naturally form attachments and bonds with them. That's normal. But like
Yeah.
we don't, and that also kind of explains like how like that's what makes fans want to invest in these parasocial relationships, because we treat them, even if we know they're not real relationships, even though we know they're parasocial, we
We
like
treat
can't
them
help it.
as real.
We
Yeah.
treat them as real relationships because we can't help it, because that's just like how we're hardwired.
Yeah, it's like not in our biology, and like
Yeah.
we're basically tricking our brains the whole time.
Well, we're not tricking our brains are being tricked. We're not trying to do it to ourselves. It's just
Yeah,
our
yeah,
brains
that's
are
what I
being
mean.
tricked. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we are consuming so much content of these people and interacting with them so much and getting updates from them so much that we just like naturally form these attachments and bonds with them. And it's almost kind of unavoidable, which is a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Because the only way to like not get to that is like the only way to not form an attachment and bond with them would be to like just not consume their content that much, basically. Like to
Yeah.
never consume their content that much from the beginning and then consistently never consume their content that much.
Yeah, like that's in the modern world that's kind of hard,
Exactly, it's hard.
especially with
Yeah,
K-pop.
because it makes you
If you
happy.
like K-pop, you're just gonna naturally watch all the content, and
Exactly, it's like
they promote them like that.
mhm.
Like I said, emphasis on the artist's personality. You just kind of, even if you don't mean to, you get to know them.
Exactly, like
Like it
it's
always like,
unavoidable. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a joke in the K-pop community. Like, I just wanted to know their names. But that's how it starts. Like, you genuinely might want to know their names, but you can't avoid the other content after that. And it's like, you're
hmm
gone.
I'm sure there are casual fans, so there are people who just genuinely like only listen to the music and maybe watch a little content, but they don't go down the rabbit hole. But like, if you're actually a K-pop fan, if you're actually get into K-pop and you enjoy K-pop, as even just as entertainment, you're inevitably probably going to go down that rabbit hole and watch more content. And the more content you
Yeah.
consume of these idols, the more like your brain is naturally just going to form an attachment and a bond with them. And like it kind of, like I said, can't be controlled unless you just like don't consume their content and you establish boundaries basically on like your parasocial relationship with your idols.
Yeah. Even if you mean to like, or mean to be a fan of a single group, or like if it starts with one group or one idol, it can spread, uh
Mm-hmm.
for like, let's say there are groups or artists with a similar sound in the same company, or like you just somehow get interested in the artists that are in the same company,
Mm-hmm.
or artists that are friends of your idol, and it just
Or
starts
you just listen to music,
spreading.
or you just like check out other
Yeah.
K-pop music in general, and like you find that
Yeah.
you like repeatedly like songs by a certain artist, and then you get interested in them too. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the personality is like what you get to know. You get to know it easily through like
Yeah.
your idols and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
their interactions with the others.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, was there anything else you had to add for that point, or
No.
okay? So then I will get into my point then, and then we can discuss a little bit more, kind of try to answer it together, or like build off what each other is saying, and like kind of try to answer the question more completely. So my theory, and it kind of overlaps a little bit with yours, but we ended up kind of splitting off in a different direction, so it's fine, even if there's like kind of a little bit of overlap, at least
Yeah.
initially. So, my theory is that the K pop industry is well aware that many people are lonely and struggling with mental health and various things, and they do a good job at presenting K pop as a quote unquote solution to people's loneliness and problems and create the perfect escape or fantasy. I talked about this in the last episode too. Um, and the K pop industry tries to facilitate parasocial relationships in every way possible. Like, for example, idols not being allowed to date, idols acting like they're romantic partners or close friends to their fans and saying and doing things that a romantic partner or a close friend would say or do, idols doing lots of live streams and content that shows them behind the scenes in personal or intimate settings, um, idol messaging apps, idols interacting with fans a lot, etc. And it's easier for people to just escape into a fantasy than it is for them to address the reasons for their loneliness or mental health issues or the other things that they're struggling with or that are holding them back. And also, parasocial relationships are good at simulating certain experiences without having to actually do the things you need to do in order to actually experience those things. Like finding a partner, having a relationship, achieving your dreams or success, feeling productive, having a good social life, etc. Like parasocial relationships allow you to experience these things vicariously or feel like you're experiencing these things without you having to put in any work.
Yeah. Oh my god. The last one, I feel like I have a lot to say to that.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just putting in effort, or like not needing to put any real effort into one, finding a partner, and
Mm-hmm.
then two, being in a relationship itself. Like, even if you love someone, it is a lot of effort. And
Mm-hmm.
there can be like um, struggles with, let's say, living together. Like, couples don't always start to live together, but a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there can be things that you notice about the other person only once you start to live together.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's none of those like uncomfortable kind of like changes or like things to get like used to when you're a fan of a K-pop idol and like
Mm-hmm.
have a parasocial romantic relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I feel like many K-pop fans are like young and might not
Mm-hmm.
have any experience of like dating or like being physical with a partner. So like, when they're in love with an idol, that's kind of like a safe area, like a safe space to like um explore your feelings and your sexuality without like having to like actually like be physical with anyone else. That can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a safe way to explore yourself and like what it is like to be in love, because idols, they can't hurt you
Mm-hmm. Like physically. Well,
most of the
physically. They
time.
could like I mean if you get too parasocial and you're
Yeah,
feeling
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
get like your feelings could hurt, yeah. But like
Yeah,
physically they can't harm you. Yeah, because
yeah,
they're
they
not
can't
there.
harm you physically, and like even emotionally, uh like, obviously you can be hurt by them, like, or like by you not being able to be with them actually, but they can't say anything hurtful to you directly. Like, they can't break up with you.
Yeah, they can't
You have
reject
to be
you.
the one to
Yeah.
break up with them, a quote unquote break up.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
so it's like, you kind of, yeah, you get to be in a relationship that's like quote unquote like safe.
It's like yeah, it's safe and easy and it's kind of like on your own terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is like parasocialism happens primarily because of like the culture that K-pop companies have created.
Yeah.
Like parasocialism was like it was part of the equation of K-pop, like from the very start when K-pop started.
Yeah.
And that was always
Yeah.
part of like the cult. That was part of the culture and dynamic that companies created back in the '90s when K-pop started and stuff. So it's like, and that's been like kind of like one of the key um
Ingredients.
yeah, one of the key ingredients of K-pop. Yeah, and also one of the
Yeah.
signature, kind of one of the signature aspects of K-pop that's kind
Yeah.
of like makes it different from other types of media, like in the sense that it like actively tries to encourage and facilitate parasocial relationships. In that sense, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's why so much importance is put on the idol's looks
Mm-hmm.
and also like the choreography. I feel like even especially these days. I mean, there have always been like seducing moves,
Yeah.
but there's even more emphasis on like idols' faces, um,
Faces and bodies. Yeah,
expressions these
faces
days.
and bodies. Yeah, and like kind of the way they move and express themselves
Yeah,
these days. Yeah.
I feel like because I've been watching a lot of like 90s K-pop performances, there
Hmm.
used to, like before, there really wasn't any like zoom ins on like anyone's face.
Like no
Like it was all
face
about,
cams, no face cams. Yeah.
yeah, like it was all about just like how their like whole bodies move, the whole
The
body
group performance. Yeah,
choreography.
the whole like group moving together and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there are like expressions that are part of the choreography. Like there are
Yeah.
winks that are
And
part of
like
the
sticking their
choreography.
tongues out and stuff. And
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And they do ending fairies and like,
Yeah. Ending poses and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like that focusing on looks so much is like the only reason for that I can come up with is that they're trying to make the idols desirable. I mean,
Yeah.
in many ways, but also just like to get parasocial fans. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
reason, the
They're trying
real
to pull
reason.
in as many fans as possible. Yeah. And they're trying to make the idols as appealing as possible. Like, it's like their faces, which can include like, makeup, but also like their bodies, the outfits, and like the way the outfits like fit them, and like how revealing they can be sometimes, and like,
Yeah.
and also the movements that idols do to kind of like draw attention to certain parts of their bodies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if it was about like how cool the performances are, how talented the idols are, and how good the music is,
Hmm.
then it would all just be like showing the dance and stuff. Like there would be no reason to show anyone's face close up and do like a
Yeah.
cute expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's just a little spice that's putting the mix, like a dash of parasocialism in there, like
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's just like so interesting that it's just like, because it's kind of like, yeah, there could be parasocial like there are parasocial fans of like celebrities in general, but it's like the fact that like it's like K-pop is just like so out there about like trying to like make people like make fans parasocial, and to like create as many parasocial fans as possible, and like that's like part of what drives like that's like the main, maybe the main thing that drives like the
yeah,
popularity of K-pop too.
yeah. And if I think about like Western music fans, well, I'm not in those fan spaces, but I feel like
Me
if
neither.
let's say like normies from like the West
Hmm.
um found out about someone being like a parasocial fan towards a Western artist, I feel like they would find it really creepy and weird and like not normal. But
Hmm.
like here in K-pop, in the K-pop world, it's like no one bats an eye.
It's
It's
normal. I think the
like
difference, yeah, the difference is like there's parasocial fan, like I imagine there are parasocial fans too of Western artists, but the thing is like it's not normalized in Western, like in the fan
yeah,
bases for Western artists, like it is for in K-pop fan bases, where it's like in K-pop fan bases, being parasocial is like the norm, and like it's not even just the norm; it's like expected, kind of, and it's not even just
yeah,
like it's almost kind of like if you're not parasocial enough, you're gonna like rub a lot of fans the wrong way because you're like not on the same page as them.
yeah.
So yeah, we can move on to the last question.
Yeah, I think I should read this one. What needs to change in order for parasocialism to not be so prevalent in K pop? What should fans do? What should idols do? And what should companies do?
Mhm. Yeah. So my answers are kind of long, so you might have to bear with me a bit, but I'm
Yeah.
just trying to be thorough. So I know that some fans are gonna just blame everything on the companies and say there, quote unquote, is no solution because the companies won't change, or that the idols, quote unquote, have no choice, or that there's like no hope for fans. But I personally believe that there are things that all three parties can do with regards to this issue of like
Yeah,
trying to reduce parasocialism
me too.
and and make it so that it's not so common in K-pop. So that's why we like framed the question in the way we did about like what can each of these different three parties do, because I don't believe it's 100% on the companies. There are things that fans and idols can do too to try to help reduce parasocialism. So I am gonna just go in order of like fans, idols, companies, just like how the question was formatted.
Yeah.
So for fans, I think the biggest thing that fans can do to help reduce parasocialism is that fans need to be more self-aware and spread awareness with regards to how parasocialism can affect them and how parasocialism does affect them. And while most fans are aware at a basic level, they often don't notice how deep they are into standing their idols, or they aren't really consciously aware of how these parasocial relationships are affecting them. And fans often blame or attack other fans for everything rather than pausing and trying to view the situation objectively or practice self awareness. Fans need to get better at spotting the effects of parasocialism and also the effects of being chronically online, and need to learn how to take a step back, take a break, go offline, touch grass, and try to be self aware and objective and get some distance from everything. So that's what I think fans can do. Like, and also what I
Yeah.
said earlier, like, fans need to set boundaries. Like, set boundaries on these parasocial relationships that they have with their idols. So they need to practice self awareness. They need to get distance, and they need to like establish boundaries, like how you would with any relationship in your life, or how you should with
Yeah.
your relationships in your life if you don't do that. And
Yeah,
then
definitely.
and then for idols, so I know the situation with idols is complicated because being parasocial and encouraging parasocialism is kind of part of their jobs. However, not all companies are controlling, and some idols have more freedom than others. And also,
Yeah.
even if the companies try to facilitate and encourage parasocialism, the idols don't have to. Like, there are examples of idols who don't encourage parasocial relationships with their fans and who are more honest and candid and direct when it comes to dealing with their fans, especially the parasocial ones. And there are idols who call out obsessed or overly parasocial fans, or who try not to play the role of the quote unquote, parasocial boyfriend or girlfriend to their fans. So that needs to be more of the norm in K-pop, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
idols need to realize the consequences of their actions more, because the fans being overly parasocial also negatively affects the idols too. And they need to try to not encourage parasocialism and be more honest and direct with their fans. So that's what I feel
Yeah,
like idols can
definitely.
do. And then for companies, this one is super long, so I apologize in advance, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's an explanation that I want to give, because I think this isn't something that I've really seen get talked about much. So, in companies, I feel like bear the most responsibility because they're the ones who started this bullshit. But anyways, so like obviously like companies only care about money, but one could make a compelling case that companies encouraging parasocialism can negatively affect their profits as well, because fans are getting increasingly obsessed and extreme and entitled, and it's getting to the point where they're demanding so many idols to be removed from their groups, or like to be forced to retire. Like that's like, especially lately, there have been a lot, like fans are like getting like, they're wanting to cancel idols over everything, and wanting idols to like be like removed from the group, or like want them to just be retire from being idols over like every little thing, it kind of feels like.
Ah.
And it's like companies invest like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not more, into each and every trainee and idol that they debut, like for years, because they're paying for them for years. Like, and so it's a huge loss for companies if they invest so much in training and supporting and providing for these idols from when they're trainees until well after debut, and then those idols are forced to quit being idols because of fans' extreme parasocialism. Like that's a huge loss
Yeah.
for companies if they're paying for these idols, these idols for so many years, like as trainees, and then after they debut, and especially like like they might have paid for these idols as trainees for like many years, and the idol just debuts, and then already fans like want to cancel them and want the idol to like not be an idol anymore, and like so then companies never are able to even make back the money that they spent on those idols. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and like, so companies need to do a better job of incorporating stuff like this into their calculations and decision making, because it's becoming a trend for fans to just cancel idols over every little thing, like I said, and like refusing to support the idols and demanding that they quit the industry, like for whatever reason. Like, because the idol dated before, because the idol dated when they were a trainee or some bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that is like not even problematic. And like and then like also, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but the parasocialism also negatively affects idols' mental health in many ways.
Yeah,
And it can,
definitely.
yeah, and it can prevent the idols from having relationships and being happy. And like all idols, I'm pretty sure, have saucings too.
Hmm.
And it causes a lot of mental and emotional distress for idols. And super parasocial fans can be really demanding and controlling and force idols to live very limited lives, which sucks. And sometimes idols can't be active for long periods of time because of their mental health struggles, and that hurts the company's profits. I mean, because I'm talking about this from the company side. Like, obviously, that's bad for
Yeah.
other reasons, but for companies, because they only care about money, like
Yeah.
that hurts the company's profits when idols are forced to be inactive because their mental health has gotten so bad that they literally can't work, you know? And then, it can get even worse than that too. And that's also a huge loss for companies as well. So companies need to take these types of things into consideration and should reconsider how much they encourage and facilitate parasocialism.
Yeah. I didn't even think that there was like so many like financial like things that affect the companies financially
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um about parasocialism. Like, yeah, it's just like the obsession means that, yeah, the fans use or like spend a lot of money on their idols, but that also means that they can turn around so easily because,
Mm-hmm.
like we established before in this episode, negative feelings are also like turned to max when you're obsessed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So those are my points. You should share.
Yeah,
Yeah. What are your points? Like, share your points, and then
yeah,
we can kind
let's
of get
get
more
into
into
it
it.
after I've
Yeah. After you share your
shared
points.
mine.
Yeah.
So also, if I were to start with the fans, um
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned about like being more aware of their behavior, but I worded it, it's kind of the same thing, but I worded it differently. Stop normalizing parasocialistic behavior on
Mm-hmm.
platforms.
Yeah.
Call the
Yeah.
people out who are going too far.
Yeah. Well, not just the people who are going too far, because like I think that there are quite a few K-pop fans. Like most K-pop fans are totally willing to call out like saucings and stuff like that. It's like the everyday quote unquote normal parasocialism that goes like undetected, and that fans don't really
Yeah.
acknowledge that like this is also not good. This is also unhealthy. This is also weird.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like I see a lot of, or like the most parasocialism that I see is like seems harmless. It seems harmless, but a lot of it is like that sadness. It's just
Yeah.
sadness on the timeline. People posting like sad memes like, "Man, this idol is so handsome."
Hmm.
I'm so sad. Why are they like this and I can't have them? Like
Hmm.
that kind of sadness is like I feel like most of the parasocialism that I see.
Yeah, and I agree. So it's kind of like there needs to be more kind of awareness and like people pointing out like, okay, so this is parasocialism too. Because you said like the extreme. I said didn't you say something like the calling out like the extreme cases or something, or what was your wording?
Call the people who are going too far.
Who are going too far. So that's like makes people think of like that would make people think of like sasaengs or like people who are pushing boundaries with the idols. But actually,
Yeah,
what I don't know if that's what you were referring to, but actually the stuff, the parasocialism that's more prevalent and that like needs to like more attention needs to be drawn to it. It needs to be called out more. Is like I said, like the everyday parasocialism, the crying on the
yeah,
timeline because you can't have your idol, the being
yeah,
depressed because you haven't heard from your idol or haven't gotten new
yeah,
content in a while. And like also fans just like the celebrity worship and fans like attacking other fans and bullying other fans
yeah.
over bullshit.
And also, it's just like kind of like delusional tweets overall. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
they might be acting like they're harmless. Like,
yeah.
they might act as if, that was a joke. But it's those jokes are coming from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And like, um, even if it's a joke, like, what would be like a good example tweet? Like, actually, he's wearing white because we're getting married.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so that's just an example.
yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
and like, yeah, that might be a joke, but like, how do you call that out without being called an asshole? Like, that's
Yeah, that's the question.
what's holding people back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, literally. Because if you try to call out
Like,
like
bro,
the
it's just a
everyday
joke.
normalized parasocialism, yeah, people will like call you an asshole and say that you don't have a sense of humor and you can't take a joke. And it's like, but it's not
Yeah,
entirely a joke. And you're like normal. And a lot of behavior gets kind of normalized or passed off as humor or like kind of dismissed and ignored under the guise of like, oh, it's just a quote unquote joke, you know?
yeah. But also, this is an interesting thing that I realized. These fans are just like, they are expressing their feelings, and feelings need to be let out somehow,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what feeling it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if all K-pop fans stopped tweeting like that, stopped like thirst tweeting, or just, making those like any amount of parasocial tweets, um would that be bad? Because they would still have those feelings, but they would
Mm-hmm.
not express them. So that could make them act out, like, actually more radically, like, towards the
I guess
idol.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't express things. I'm saying that there needs to be more awareness. Like there needs to be awareness of like
Yeah.
what it is. Because a lot of people because if they're hiding behind oh it's just a joke, then we can't have real conversations about parasocialism and like the negative effects that it has on fans. We
Yeah.
can't have conversations about things because somebody's going to get triggered and angry and they're both because most people are sheep and also afraid of getting attacked themselves and don't think for themselves or whatever. Like they're all just going to like pile on anybody who tries to like call out stuff like that. And also there's like a lot of people who are like when they try to call things out, they're also like doing it poorly, or they might be doing it to get attention, or like, you know what I mean? They're being stupid, sort of. And then the
Yeah.
people who like get defensive, who would like defend everything, are like if someone like you or me were to call them out, they think, oh, you're just another one of those attention seekers, or you're just another one of those haters, or you're just trying to start something, or being a troll or whatever. You know, so it's kind of like we can never have like real conversations about things because it's always like people aren't being genuinely honest and open and they aren't actually like willing to like a lot of fans don't want to they don't want to like talk about these things or actually even believe or realize that this is what it is, sort of. It's like they want to just keep believing what
Yeah.
they want to believe, but then they do have these negative feelings and they don't know what to do with them. So then they do just like cry on the timeline or attack other fans or whatever. And like nothing, it's just kind of like, you know, wash, rinse, repeat all the time. It's just like this never ending cycle, basically. And like there's never any productive conversation. So then we never move
Yeah.
forward in a productive way, or like nothing is ever resolved.
Yeah. So I guess you can express yourself, but other people just would need to, check on that person. Like, are you aware that this is maybe not
But this is
healthy?
so common. This is
Yeah, it's
so
so
common.
common that you can't do that for every
It's so
group.
common
Like,
and normalized that it's like most fans won't even check in on each other because they're doing the same fucking thing. Because they're tweeting the
yeah.
same fucking shit. That's the thing. And they're retweeting that, like, shit like that. So that's the problem, is like, there's no awareness. Like, it's totally fine to say, to like express that you feel a certain way, but it's like, nobody wants to be sincere. Nobody wants to be like actually candid and honest about their feelings and being like, I'm feeling a certain way about my idol and I want to talk about it. It's like they cover it up with humor, they cover it up with memes, or they cover it up with like, oh, this is normal, we all do this. Let's post and cry together, post about our idols and cry together about how we can't have them. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the biggest thing is like it needs to be more normalized for fans to like be honest. I think to be honest and open about how they actually feel, and to also like to point out that behavior to each other, or like I was said from my point, like they need to kind of spread awareness and to kind of like point out instances like this to like either if it's
Yeah.
like friends to each other or just general tweets in like or posts or whatever about like these phenomena, and like just kind of be like, this stuff, this is what you're experiencing here, like this is a side effect of parasocialism, and like it's not going to go away, or there's no solution for it unless like you actually are aware of that and you kind of like try to establish boundaries or try to get some distance from your idols, and like have it create a situation where it's like you're not constantly consuming their content and then obsessing over them and then missing them, and and posting about them, and that's like all you're thinking about.
Yeah. Like, even if you get told that as a fan, like, even if some other fan does call you out, it's really, really hard to become actually aware. Like, you hear the words and you're like, yeah, but you don't actually understand. Like, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't actually like understand what the problem is. It's like requires time. It requires time and like effort to understand, or like something for you to happen that wakes you up. And
Yeah, some kind of
yeah,
pivotal moment,
it's
or
not
yeah.
so simple.
I know, but for this, like, it's like talking about what can fans do. I mean, like, you can't just
Yeah,
be like,
what
there's
can they
nothing. You can't
do?
just be like, oh, we're doomed,
Yeah,
because
I know.
fans are
i'm
too
not
parasocial to realize they're parasocial or how
I'm
parasocial they
not,
are.
but I'm just saying that it's like this is why it
Yeah,
exists, because it's so hard to like even try to get it out of get it out there. I mean,
yeah, but like, the change has to start somewhere, and so like what we're proposing is like fans need to be like the fans who are self-aware, I guess, or the fans who are aware of these things, like us, and I'm sure we're not the only ones. Like they need to kind of like speak up more and kind of try to have these conversations, even though it's really hard, even though there's like a lot of resistance and like a lot of people don't like it. It's like these conversations have to start somehow. They have to start somewhere. They're like aware, like there does need to be more awareness and like more attempts to kind of like you know make it so like this isn't so normalized that it goes undetected and it never gets pointed out, and then things just keep escalating and getting worse, and more fans kind of just get increasingly
yeah.
obsessed and nothing is done about it, and K-pop just gets increasingly toxic and stuff like that because people aren't aware and aren't having conversations about these things.
Yeah. Uh, I should get into the rest of my
Yeah, yeah.
uh, things that I had to
Yeah, yeah,
say.
yeah.
So that was all that I had to say about the fans. I don't have much to say about this. Kind of like for both. idols and companies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, idols should date publicly and talk about their dating life, but
Mm-hmm.
only if they want to, obviously,
Yeah.
because it's also like a privacy thing. Like they don't need to say specifics like I'm dating right now, but like
Mm-hmm.
they should just be open about like their past
Mm-hmm.
experiences. Like I had this one ex that was so like,
Yeah, or at the
something
very
like that.
least, or at the very least, just an acknowledgement that they do date, or that
Yeah,
they
the
intend to date. Like, if they don't want
acknowledgement.
to share specifics, that's fine. But just like this acknowledgement that, like, I do date, or I intend to date one day, or I intend to get married one day.
I mean, a lot of idols say that, but it's like if
I don't know if they
an
say no.
idol
I don't know if they say they
says
intend to date. I mean, some of them, like
they
I think
say intend to get married a lot,
yeah, they'll be like,
but
oh yeah, in the
then
future, yeah, in the future. But they don't say I date in general, or I've
yeah,
dated, or I intend to date sometime in the near future, like not when
yeah,
I'm 50 years old and like whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's
Like
what they should say. Because also,
yeah,
if they said, I really want to get married someday, that's just gonna make some fans more parasocial because they're
yeah.
gonna
It's
be
too
like,
yeah. It's too and
it's
it's, well,
gonna
it's
be
too distant.
me.
It's too distant too. It's like I want to
Yeah,
get married someday. Is too distant. So yeah, it should be more like I am dating, or I intend to date in the near future. I intend to get married in the near future. Like, you know.
yeah, because you were talking about that one Sasang fan
Mm-hmm.
earlier
Yeah.
who got interviewed, and
Mm-hmm.
they woke up,
Mm-hmm.
possibly if it was about that, if it
Yeah, I
was
think it
about
was
the
about.
idol.
It was because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been proven to work.
Mm-hmm.
And idols shouldn't be forced to give any fan service that they don't want to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh and you kind of like talked about this as well. uh the problem is some idols genuinely enjoy giving fan service, and
Yep.
like
I can think
and
of
like
some. Yeah. Uh
they
huh.
don't realize just what they're doing. Like some idols like actually like say stuff that's like so bad,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like let's get married, they might say
Yeah.
that,
They
like
might say. I mean, there are idols who will like say like my fans are my girlfriends.
yeah,
And
and
or
they
call
just
them
they
girlfriend or wife or honey.
yeah, they
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah,
that way too much. And
yeah,
like, do you know what like you're doing?
yeah,
And
yeah,
also I've seen that like when an idol has like a kiss scene in a drama and like the fans get jealous, the idol might be like might find it cute, or
yeah. Like, don't encourage
like
that.
and like say say stuff like, you know, you'll always be my number one, like I was just
Yeah,
acting, and like stop.
yeah, 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 yeah. They need to stop doing that. Like, and yeah, I think there are some idols that like they enjoy doing stuff like that, and like they probably find some of like the way fans react to be flattering, but it's like
Yeah,
no, don't like because it's having effects that like the idols ultimately don't want or wouldn't want, you would think. And I don't know, like it's kind of like you think it seems obvious, but it also kind of makes me wonder like do are some idols actually legitimately like kind of ignorant of the way that like do they not really connect the dots about okay, you're like really going above and beyond encouraging these parasocial relationships, and like
yeah,
maybe it's a joke for you, or you find it flattering, or you just kind of like it, like they just kind of like being
yeah,
flirty,
because
or
it
like
is
seeing
stroking their
reactions,
ego.
stroking their ego. But like are they legitimately ignorant that like okay, and did you ever wonder why you have sausings, or did you, I mean, of course like
Yeah,
celebrities can have stalkers regardless, and but like and I don't know like the number of sausings that each idol has, and so I don't know if being more idols encouraging parasocialism actually always leads to having more saucings. But it's kind of like, if you already know like that's a problem, like if you already know that there are like fans that are like really overly obsessed, that like don't respect your boundaries, you know, like they are just kind of can be like really like overbearing and controlling, and like they're not the kind of fans you would think idols would want to have. And it's like, don't you think doing those things might make it worse, or might encourage them even more, might kind of embolden them?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you'd think that they would have like realized that and stopped doing those things, but apparently not.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, is it like, are the idols kind of brainwashed like through like the training, and so like they're kind of like don't realize,
Yeah,
or
or
like
maybe they're kind of like drunk in
maybe,
um
yeah.
the feeling, like
Yeah,
it's
that could be too. They're addicted to that kind of feeling of being like desired and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, it's not good. For
yeah,
not good for fans, and it's also not good for idols too, whether they realize it or not.
yeah, definitely. Do we have anything else to
For the
say?
companies, you didn't say anything about the companies.
uh well, those were kind of like companies should make idols to give fan service, and
Okay.
companies should let idols date publicly or talk about their dating life. I didn't
Yeah.
come up anything specific for like the companies. I guess something that would be like purely for the like purely on the company is like the way that they promote. Like there are some, let's say, photo shoots and like the choreographies. It's like everywhere.
hmm
Like they're trying to make them desirable.
hmm
Just like stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Just treat them as artists, like
Yeah.
normal human beings,
Promote their music and their talent.
performers.
Promote their
Yeah.
music and their talents. I
Artists,
think the thing that's
performers, make
mhm,
people want to respect them. And I
yeah.
wouldn't say that just being parasocial and wanting to date someone is like real respect. Maybe that's
Yeah,
a
no,
hot
it's
take.
not. Yeah, they're like not idols are like not treated like real artists by the companies, because it starts with the companies, and that kind of results in idols not being viewed as real artists like by other entertainers too. Like in the
Yeah.
entertainment industry as a whole, because of that. And it's like, if the companies actually promoted their music and their talents and try to get them like, you know, as many opportunities as possible, rather than just like having everything be focused on like the looks and like the parasocialism and stuff like that, then it's like, then maybe idols would be treated like respected and treated more like real artists by like fans and like other people in the industry and stuff like that too, like the entertainment industry.
Yeah, exactly. Respect them. That's
Yeah,
what I want to say.
yeah. Like if companies respected idols more, then like idols could be freer and would be allowed to be human and would be respected more as artists, and like would by like fans and like everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So that was everything that we had to say about parasocialism. I'm glad
hmm
that we actually got to go really, really deep into this topic now. Aren't
Yes.
you?
Yeah, yeah, same. Like I'm glad that we were able to like cover this topic thoroughly and actually like delve in deep and talk about like the different facets of this issue, and kind of like the different ways that parasocialism can manifest, and also kind of just like what each of these different parties can do, kind of like how they contribute to it and what they could do to improve the situation. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for today's discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and set notifications if you would like to get alerts when there are new episodes of the K-pop Callout.
We want you to join the conversation with us, so let us know what your opinions or theories are in the comments. We upload new episodes every month on both YouTube and Spotify. Anyways, we'll see you again for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.